At a Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee hearing on Wednesday, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum testified about the fiscal year 2026 budget. One of the central areas of focus is cutting the budget in America's national parks.
We're instituting changes to get more people actually working in our parks and refuges and are looking forward to an outstanding summer. Interior is also focused on streamlining our core business operations, which will result in dramatically improved efficiencies and lower cost for American taxpayers.
But details were sparse, and Senator Heinrich from New Mexico wanted to know when there would be more information. Burgum said getting the data to make decisions has been difficult.
Our target would be to look at the places that have very low visitation, but even if you would ask a question like, hey, please give me the visitation by each of these over 400 sites, that there's numbers that they're not good data on that. So it's going to be difficult to make great decisions quickly. We just have to try to create the data framework because I would want to have any decisions we make be data-driven, and that's going to make it more difficult to identify how we can do things that make sense from a budget standpoint.
Later in the hearing, Senator King of Maine followed up with his disappointment with the budget handed to the committee.
Is the budget justification for the National Park Service for the 2025 budget that's submitted to Congress so that we have something we can work from and work with. That's 2025. This is what we've been given this year for 2026. That's an insult to the Congress.
Senator King argued that the national parks are a national treasure, and cuts didn't make sense.
What you're cutting from the National Park Service is the combined height of 2 credit cards. In other words, to save virtually no money from the federal budget, we're devastating one of America's treasures. And that's what I don't understand. And you yourself a few minutes ago said we don't have the data, you don't have the visitation data. This is ready, fire, aim. We all know the term bang for the buck. This is damage for the buck. This is huge damage to the Park Service for a very minimal return in terms of reduction of the deficit, reduction of our federal budget. Why in the world, given your commitment to the national parks, the new park, the Teddy Roosevelt Park in your state, why did you let them do this?
The Interior Secretary said flexible staffing might be one solution. He brought up Alaska's Kenai Fords as one example.
This is a beautiful and amazing park. The road gets plowed in May. It snows over in November. This is a classic case where we need a lot of staffing. Cruise ships are stopping in Seward. They get hundreds of thousands of visitors over a 3-4 month period, and then in the wintertime, the visitor centers aren't even open. So we have to figure out a way to be able to do flex staffing. It's not just as simple as the raw number. And the one number that I was able to get—
the raw number, there may be details in here, but it's pretty unmistakable, the trend on this chart. And
but the other thing—
I don't understand. You're saving a very small amount of money. You're gutting I looked it up last night. The National Park Service is the most popular federal agency. The most popular federal agency. Why in the world would you target this agency, particularly when you yourself in your testimony today said, I don't have the data?
Well, we're working—
That's ready, fire, aim. Get the data, understand the details of the budget. Give us something like this, and then we can decide what the plan should be, to echo the vice chair. What's the plan for doing this in a thoughtful way, not an arbitrary way of all probationary employees and that kind of thing?
In addition, the secretary argued that cutting administrative areas rather than in the parks themselves might be one way to streamline operations.
Well, in that thick book that you have there, I'm certain that there's one thing that's missing, which is how many of those people actually work in a park? Because we spent 8 weeks this spring rebuilding all the HR data to find out, of all the people you have in your chart, how many work in a park. Because the real issue that citizens want is, do I have an interpretive person? Do I have a ranger? Do I have, are the bathrooms clean? And so part of that is making sure that we have fewer people working, in places like Washington, D.C., more people working in the parks. I believe that we can reduce what we spend in overhead in the park and have more people actually working in the parks. And in a place like Yellowstone this summer, there are more people right now on the ground in Yellowstone than there were 3 years ago.
And I'd like to see that plan before you submit a budget that cuts the budget by 37%.
For more content like this, stay tuned to Congress Clips, and thanks for watching.